right. Forms part 2. So we'll start with a little review. Caitlin. Oh, let me ask this. If this is our form here, how do we set up a submit event handler for our form?
Yeah, so document info.
Cool. And so real quick, you know, if this was camel case, we do it like this. I don't mean to interrupt you, Caitlin. I'll let you finish, but I sound like Kanye West right there. I'm gonna let you finish. So we've seen this dot notation before, but a lot of times the proper convention is HTML is to use a dash, but JavaScript thinks that that dash is a minus. Does anybody know how to get around that? Oh, yeah, let's try that. So I don't think a forward slash would work in this instance. But we'll, okay. No, so yeah, tick marks can be used. Essentially, make this a string, and then instead of dot notation, we'll use bracket notation. So this is saying find the property car info, and then we can say, okay, Caitlin, back to you.
And from there, you just add the event listener.
Nice.
And then you have submit for your event. And then outside of the platform, you do, if you're doing arrow notation, you do the parentheses with the inside, and then on the outside of the parentheses, you have an arrow.
Cool.
The brackets open, and then you're ready to submit.
Cool. So you can call it whatever you want to. You're defining the variable right here, but it's always what it is the event object itself. So even if you called it a clown, it's going to be the event object still. So E or event, but everybody knows what E is. But we need to do something. This question's for Brian. The submit is going to refresh our page. So how do we keep the submit from refreshing our page? Cool. Very cool. And then how do we get at, this question's for Mark, how do we get at the value of what's ever inside this input box? Okay, cool. We're going to use the bracket notation again because of the dash in there. Cool. So this selects the form, and we will need a dot value, but before the dot value, what do we need?
Which one are you trying to go after again?
Let's go for the make first. Nice. So yeah, it's like saying document.car.info. And you'll see this syntax when you loop over objects as well. So this is something that you'll want to use at one point. But yeah, let's test this out. So make Toyota. Cool. All right. I think that's probably good for review. Now let's look at some cool tags. Okay, so we saw number yesterday. Let's look at type equals. So there's a few really cool ones. Date's pretty nice. Date gives the user a date picker, like a whole calendar. Yep. So
You can style that.
that's a good question. I don't know.
It's based on the browser.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Chrome's little tool for us. But I know there's like third-party calendars that you can definitely use. I tried to make my own calendar in my boot camp, and it was a failure. It's just too hard to make. Well, you got months, and they all have different amounts of days, and they end at different points, and just like.
Were you trying to cut it off exactly, or?
Yeah, this calendar's I don't know. It would take a lot of work, but totally doable. Anyway, another really cool one is color. I don't know how useful it is, but maybe if you're making themes for your website, but it gives your user this color picker here. So we don't want grayscale. Right, so a color picker. There's other useful ones for the user. This one, is it tel or telephone?
Tel.
Tel, cool. So this is noticeable when we go to phone mode. Well, I don't know if it will be, but on if you were on your mobile device, it would pop up the number keyboard versus the letter keyboard. Yeah. Yep. Email. I forget if it does its own validation. Yeah, yep. So if you type email, it makes sure that it's an email address, or at least looks like an email address.
Probably just parses for the ad symbol.
Yeah. Here, I'll take it out of responsive mode.
What's the slider one? Slider.
Yeah,
Slider.
range. I think type equals range. We'll figure it out.
Okay,
Here's the search box. It's kind of indented. Search also does something. Yeah, it has this little X for some reason. Then you can like delete whatever is in there. A lot of these also, the browser remembers like what you give, like the names and the IDs and stuff that you give to inputs, and it saves. It tries to save the right autofill stuff. So if you have a first name box, it'll save like, okay, if I find another input box that looks like it's for first names, I'll have like suggestions for it. Okay, yeah, range. So type range. There we go. And this has, you can give it a min and a max and a step and everything like that. Let's see what it's. I think it defaults to 0 to 100.
Bingo.
0 to 100. Should I try and get exactly 62? One up.
Now, so if you want to use the range, like, I guess to make like the text darker or something, would you add another event listener onto that?
Yeah, like change on the input itself. Yeah. So yeah, let's do favorites. We're going to talk about checkboxes and radio buttons. So what does a radio button look like? A circle. Yeah, the radio button is this circle. So that's the type. Let's do this first. And what makes a radio button a radio button? Actually, let's start with checkbox. I'm sorry. What does a checkbox look like? A square. Yeah, and how if there's a group of checkboxes, how many checkboxes can the user check? As many as they want. 0 if they want. As opposed to a radio button, which is usually just one of them, right? So checkboxes, this can be like favorites, favorite pet, or something. Yeah, let's see. Cats, dogs, rats. Right, so we can pick as many of these as we want. And then we can name them to group them. But for checkboxes, we just need the value. So the value is going to be like cats or dogs or whatever. And this is important. Yeah. Yep, you hard code it in there.
Otherwise, what would the value send back? Just selected or something?
Yeah, so, oh yeah. Sorry, this value will be important for radio buttons. This name. Sorry. Okay, so we name these inputs, and the reason we name these inputs is so that we can select them. This is getting, yeah. So the same way that we can get in, here, let me input. So we can say document.carinfo, or in this case, bracket notation, but document.carinfo to get at the form, document.carinfo.cats to get at this input box. And yeah, let's look at what that looks like, because we can't just say dot value like we have with other inputs. We can only see if it's checked or not. All right, so document.carinfo, but we're using this different syntax. .cats and then the property is checked, and it's going to be a Boolean, so either true or false. So if I say submit here, what am I going to get down here? I'm just here, let's look at the JavaScript. I'm just console logging the cats.checked. Yeah, and why is that?
So it's a Boolean and it's not checked.
It's a Boolean and that's not checked. So when it's checked, then it's true. So that's check boxes. Does anybody have any questions about that? Right
Do
on.
you have to hard code it and checking it every single one, or could you do a loop and just go through it?
Yeah, so you can do a loop.
I equals whatever type of stuff.
You can do a loop. Maybe we'll get to that. We'll see if we can. But there is a little write-up in the write-up. There's a little blurb about how to do that, how to stick them all in an array if that's what you want. Yeah. So what Jeff is saying, can you just loop through these elements and like build an array depending on if they're checked or not? So in your loop, you would ask the question, if whatever dot checked is, dot checked, then push to the array. Maybe we'll do that just for fun after we go over
No,
radio
no, that's
buttons.
not what I was asking. Like,
Oh.
instead of saying, is car info dot cat checked, is car info dot dogs checked, is there a way you could just be like, hey, is this like car info, like I checked and we'll loop through them instead of having to write 3 different lines, just write one line.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Not into an array, just, you know, instead of writing 3 lines, we bring it down to 1 line.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if you have like 50 check marks, you don't want to hard code it in, checking if each one is checked 50 times. That's just,
Yeah, totally. Okay, so this is favorites, but if it, here, let's change this to favorites. But if it was just single favorite, we need to use radio buttons. Oops. I'm going to make this the value. So in a radio button, type radio, we make the value whatever they're selected, because we can give radio buttons all the same name. And then that tacks on a dot favorite onto our favorite form. So how would we get it? Here, let me use the name generator real quick. As a guess, Jeff, how would we get at the value, the radio button that the users clicked on?
I mean, I would just go dot favorite, dot favorite.
Yeah, nice.
Is that good practice to use the same names?
It's not terrible. I think in this instance, it's fine. So we can only click one. The Chrome knows that they're grouped together because they all have the same name. So if we had another set of radio buttons below it and they had their own different name, then we could also click one of those radio buttons. And then, oh, so not only dot favorite, but dot favorite, dot, does anybody see? Yeah, dot value right there. And then I guess each one of them probably has their own checked. Nope. Nope, just dot value. Favorite, dot value. Right. Any questions on that?
What if we wanted to select multiple?
You want it to be,
Grads and dogs instead of just being able to select one?
then you'd make them check boxes. Yeah. I mean, if I gave cats a different name, like cat, since there's the cat grouping, the ones with the name cat and the ones with the name favorite, I can do that. Because I'm telling, by giving them different names, I'm telling Chrome that they're in different groupings.
How would it look like if we added a different name?
Yeah, so
What was the question?
how would it look like if we had a different grouping? So let's do, so that was favorite animal, let's do favorite plant. So we type radio, and we got to give them all the same name as well. So these are going to be fave plant. This is going to be sunflower,
Rose.
potato, and rose. And then, yep, we have to put a value. So the value is just going to be what it is. So value equals sunflower here. Value equals pill. Oh, no, sorry, this is rows. And then I'm going to have our console log also do the value of, the, what do we call this? So the name is fave plant. So I'm going to say fave plant right here. So this is the form name, and then the name on the grouping of radio buttons. So this grouping, the plants, they all have the same name. And this grouping, the favorite animals, all have the same name. Kind of wanted these to sit over here. I'm going to change that real quick. That won't work. I was trying to quick and dirty just get these three over here.
I mean, you just had that. Why did you say it didn't work?
Well, it was going cats, dogs, rats, sunflower, potato, rows. Yeah. Oh, anyway, they're different groupings, right? So I can pick one in the animals and one in the plants. Oh, that's terrible. Okay. Anyway, this will work for us. Rats and potato. That's potato. That's the potato one. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of this. Anyway, that is the end of Forms 2. Any questions on anything?
Should they be in like separate forms?
Depends. Let's say you're filling out a form that's just all your favorite stuff or whatever. It makes sense that they all go on the same form. But it depends. It depends on how many submit buttons you want, I guess. I would say one submit button for every form. Be my general rule. So there's a good practice for this, the travel form. The interesting part of this assignment is the checkbox section. So you're gonna have to figure out how to display their dietary restrictions, the checkboxes. You can even in your output, it doesn't have to look exactly like that. It can just have like dietary restrictions and then them listed vertically, or maybe each of them just with a true or false by it, or a line through the ones that, I don't know. However you want to display the information, and then make your form look somewhat nice. So use some positioning and make it look like an attractive form that a user could intuitively just fill out real quick and submit. And I'll put it in Trello.
Can you put the Mario one in Trello too?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I think at 2, we'll go over Flexbox, and then you can start to use those tools in this assignment and Mario Pest Control as well. Go ahead and start on the functionality and tell them stuff.